Yo guys, what's up? Shadow here and welcome to VR Sunday. Today we're looking at a game called Azlan, Rise of the Burlpups. I think that's how you say this. Before we start though, a little disclaimer. I got this game for free over the Steam Curator program, just so you know. So this video is not only for you guys, it's also for the devs of this game, just, you know, as a feedback. You know how the drill goes. Alright, so first a little bit of information about the game. Also, yes, this is like post-recording commentary. I'm trying a few new things out of the format. We'll see. So, this is a tower defense game, a VR tower defense game. You basically have like a little tabletop thingy in front of you, where you can place down your turrets on predetermined positions, and you have to defend waves of enemies. Simple concepts. I feel it works in VR very well. This kind of tabletop gameplay in general works very well in my opinion, and tower defense in particular. So the game is not out yet. It's set to come out at the 21st of December this year. So I can also not tell you the price of the game yet. It's not on the Steam page, and I had no information on that, so I can not really tell you. The game, it says, has over 30 different kind of ground and flying enemies. It has all the turrets can be upgraded to level 3, and there are 8 different maps, so 8 levels. And it says more than 7 hours of gameplay with hidden achievements. So, let's go into the gameplay and let's see how it goes. So, it is, again, because it's a tower defense game, it's a very simple concept. And this game makes it a bit more simple in that it only lets you place towers at very specific locations. You can see these, the pre-built towers. And then on top of that, you can place one of 3 different tower types. There's the crystal, which is the most expensive one, and to me feels like it deals the most damage. There is the cannon one, which deals splash damage, which is amazing. And then there is the cheapest one, which is kind of ballista kind of looking thing, which, you know, is your basic tower. And, for just a very basic tower defense game, there is not necessarily more that is needed, although I can imagine in the future they might want to add more towers, but that's beside the point. So it's very easy to control. If you want to place a tower, just hover your hand over one of the 3 symbols, and it will automatically pick one of these turrets up, if you have the money, of course. And then just hover over the tower you want to place it, and boom, there is your tower. Easy peasy. You can also press the trigger on one of the towers to upgrade said tower to a higher level, which will increase its damage, its firing rate, its range, basically everything. It makes everything better. If you press the thumb pad, it will sell the tower, so if you misplace something, you can sell it back like that. Now, you can not only place down towers, you can also command the Royal Guard, which for some reason is only consistent of 1 guy, but hey, there you go. Now, this guy you can pick up when you go with the controller over him and press the trigger button, and then drag him basically to the place you want to have him go, and then boom, he is there instantly. Now, what this guy will do is the first enemy that encounters him, he will basically challenge to an honorable duel, it seems, and they will duke it out. And most enemies he can pretty much take on one by one, but he will lose some health, and eventually he will die. But don't you worry, he respawns. It takes a while, but he does. Now, this guy is pretty important, at least at the beginning of the game when you don't have that many towers, because you want to keep enemies at your towers for as long as possible, so they can, deal the most damage, obviously. Also, if one of the enemies gets through your defenses, for example, in this level I foolishly placed my towers all at the front and neglected to have one at the back, so I had to kind of use my knight to clean up. Now, this is a good idea. It's always a good idea to have something in a tower defense game that you can do while the wave is going, because that's a big problem with tower defense games, that once you have built up your defense and everything is going fine, you basically just wait for everything to fall in place. You see your grand design working. Some people like that, but it is a lull in the game if you have nothing to do. So at least with this Royal Guard guy, you can order him around a bit, and that's nice. Now, the game itself, it looks decent. I kind of like this tabletop design. It's very, I have to say, I generally like tabletop games. I've played a lot of Warhammer Fantasy. I'm a tabletop gamer guy. I like this kind of stuff. So to me, this is kind of cool. Now, the game also, at least after tutorial level, it gives you also a slider that lets you adjust the table height, which is always a good idea in VR. So maybe, kids can play it, or extremely tall people can play it without having to bend down all the time. So that's a good idea to have. Minor gripe about this one, at the beginning of every level, it's resetting the height. So it doesn't remember what height you set it at, which is, minor annoyance, nothing terribly wrong. But still, that would be a nice thing to have, I suppose. Now, the game itself, the graphics, you can say you don't like this kind of graphic style. It looks a little bit of comical, and, that is a preference, I would say. I really like the models of the enemies, and I've played 4 levels so far, and I have seen a ton of different models, and I like that. It gives it a little bit of a variety, and also at least a few of the enemies feel a lot different. There's, for example, in one of the levels, there's like a rat enemy that is extremely fast. And then in another level, there's these kind of Treebeard, from Lord of the Rings kind of looking enemies that are super, super big, and they have tons of health. And that is pretty cool. So yeah, I would say there's nothing terribly wrong with this game. However, again, as a feedback to the developer, since this is the point of the Steam Curator program, in my opinion, to give feedback, here's a few things that I would change or put into the game. Now, 100% to be fair, I didn't play it to the end. I have to say this right now. It seems like it unlocks a new feature every level. So, for example, at the 4th level, you finally get the option to upgrade your towers, which is something I've been waiting on the first 3 levels like crazy, because oftentimes I have so much gold and cannot do anything with it because you cannot upgrade your towers in the first 3 levels. But yeah, so take it with a grain of salt. It is possible that a few of these things might come along in the later levels, but who knows. So one of the first things I would suggest to put into a tower defense game, doesn't matter what kind of tower defense games, because most of them already have it, and in my opinion all of them should, is a speed up button that speeds up the wave. This is like a big thing, especially if you get into later levels with bigger mazes and crazy amounts of enemies. Because if you don't have a speed up button, you will be waiting for a long time until they die. Especially in the later stages of that level, if you already place all your towers down, if everything is upgraded, yeah, you're just waiting. So a speed up button would be nice. A slowdown button, some tower defense games use that as well. I don't really see the point here. It's not that hectical for the most part, so yeah, but a speed up button, definitely a good idea. Also something that is not that important here, because the next wave always begins quite quickly. You know, a skip wave button so that you can get immediately to the next wave, especially if you want to try again and again to get like 3-star ratings on the levels. You will want to get through these levels as quickly as possible without much downtime. So again, it's not super important, but yeah, skip wave button, why not, right? And something else from a technical standpoint that is in some tower defense games, not in all, but it's something that I find extremely important, or maybe not important, but it's super convenient to have, is a tower targeting system. Now, I cannot quite tell how the towers target things in this game. I would assume it's always the enemy that is furthest along in the maze. And that is, for the most purposes, a good idea. However, it is sometimes better for certain towers to shoot at certain enemies. For example, the crystal tower, which in my experience deals the most damage. I would rather have this tower shoot at bigger enemies. So, you know, something like settings where you can set your towers to shoot at, let's say, the furthest back guy that they can reach, or the first enemy they can reach, or the one with the most health, the one with the least health. And I think that would work from an interface perspective, because there's, at least with the normal Vive controller, there's a few unused buttons yet. For example, the grip buttons on the side, they're not used yet. So, you know, maybe hover over the tower and then press the grip button to cycle through the different targeting modes. That would be possible. So that's just an idea. Also, generally speaking, you only use one controller all the time. So technically, on the second controller, you could have a few more options, I suppose. But again, that is a bit, you know, not that important. When it comes to a gameplay standpoint, there's a few things that could be in the game. The thing is, enemy variety I think is quite good. I haven't seen flying enemies yet, but it said in the descriptions that it has them, so I will believe that. And then, for example, the cannons, well, at least I assume the cannons cannot target flying enemies. That's like the default thing in most tower defense games, like that the big AoE cannon thingies cannot target flying enemies, and therefore you'll need other towers for that. So I think enemy variety the game has down. Not sure if there's boss waves in that. You know, like one big chunky dude that you have to kill, and if he reaches the end, it's instant game over. Might be an idea. What I would put into the game content-wise, there's, well, two things, essentially. More levels. More levels is always good, right? Come up with more intricate designs, and maybe even bigger maps. Now, what I've noticed is that the maps are always fixed, so you physically walk around to get to different points on the map. I would make it so that you can turn or teleport around the map with the Vive controllers, because not everybody has that much space, you know, to walk around freely and, you know, place towers. Some people really have to watch that they don't walk into a wall, or maybe, you know, the chair that they have in front of their desk that is in the way, something like that, you know. So turning the map, and that would allow for a lot bigger maps then, you know, a lot more complicated designs. So that is an avenue where they can increase the content. The other avenue that I would see that this game needs, content-wise, is more different towers. I think that spices up a tower defense game significantly if you have more different towers. And I know that is a bit of a difference. In our circle of friends, we actually made a tower defense game on the Warcraft 3 engine, and coming up with a lot of different interesting towers and enemies is difficult. I know this very much. But the game has, I would say, 3 very basic towers in it, you know, like the splash tower, the high damage tower, and the basic tower. So I think there's a few like evergreens that could be added that would give the whole game a little bit more of a tactical flair, like slow towers, for example, or poison towers, or maybe like a chain lightning thingy, or a tower that maybe temporarily disables an enemy, you know, for a few seconds, like maybe cages him in or stuns him, something like that. There's a lot of things you can do with different towers. And of course you can also then, if you really want to go all in on different tower designs, there's like, with the upgrades, you could go branching upgrade paths, you know? For example, let's say the basic damage, ballista tower, you could either make this into a fast-firing multi-shot ballista at the highest level, or maybe turn it into a sniper tower, you know, so that you have options. I think more options give you more like tactical feeling while playing these. In a few levels, I basically felt like, yeah, put down cannon towers wherever it is convenient, and then maybe 1 or 2 crystal towers. That's it. I almost never used the basic tower unless I had to emergency deploy a tower somewhere, and I didn't have much money. So I think more tower variety would be very interesting for this game as well. So yeah, again, I think, you know, from a baseline, this is a good start, especially because as far as I've seen, this is their first game from this developer, the Ministry of Immersion, which is a great name, by the way. So I think this is a good start as a baseline for the game, you know. So I think this is a game where they can build up upon, you know, get a bit of an experience in VR, in the VR environment. And again, I think that's a good thing. There's room to increase the value of this game. They have a good base platform that works. I didn't have any significant bugs, I don't think. The only thing that I noticed that struck me in a weird way is sometimes it feels like the tower has like a weird attack timer. You know, I expect kind of a tower to, when something goes into the tower range and it hasn't fired yet, I expect the tower to be able to fire immediately because it's loaded. But sometimes it felt like when something walks into tower range, the tower almost has to kind of like start loading and then fire, which sometimes leads to situations where a creature that is really fast runs into tower range, the tower turns to face it, and then suddenly it's out of tower range again and the tower hasn't fired once. That's a weird thing. I don't know if that is deliberate or if I stumbled upon a weird bug, but it felt weird to me. So that's maybe the only, let's say, bug that I found. Everything else works fine. There's nothing wrong with it. Again, very basic tower defense game that has room for improvement. And as a first entry into the VR world, yeah, why not? Again, it comes out the 21st of December, if you want to check it out. And yeah, that has been VR Sunday, the game called Azlan, Rise of the Burlpups. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.